I wouldn't consider it a controversial statement to say that Komodo dragons are freaking awesome. They, along with other monitor lizards like them, greatly fascinate me due to their unique biology and extremely high intelligence, despite many people thinking that they are these mindless primitive beasts. In fact, I could make an entirely separate video on varanid intelligence alone. They are definitely some of my favorite animals ever. I mean, just look at this beautiful creature. The lizard too. To me, they truly are a case of fact being even more impressive than fiction. The largest lizards in the world, growing up to 3.13 meters or 10.3 feet, and weighing up to 366 pounds. That's as heavy as a motorcycle. Despite their size, they can run frighteningly fast in short bursts, have the strength to easily tear your limbs off, brutally fight each other to the death in duels for dominance, can reproduce asexually, and are highly venomous, with teeth made of iron, or at least containing iron. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a lot more impressive to me than some fire-breathing lizard or a comparison to a living dinosaur. There's a reason these lizards are so successful despite only living in a few small islands in Indonesia, and their biggest advantage is their opportunistic nature. And keep that word in mind. The Komodo dragon is the very definition of an opportunist.
Oh, you would like to hear what we're thinking, wouldn't you?
Indeed, the diet of wild Komodo dragons is so incredibly varied that I thought it would be fun to make a video attempting to cover it and hopefully educate you all on these wonderful and often misunderstood animals. But with a twist. MamPam is going to show you all sorts of prey items of the Komodo dragon, but the prey items will progressively get weirder and weirder. Be sure to stick with me till the end, because the last food items are something else, girl. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel, and educating people about wildlife has always been my passion, so you are directly helping me accomplish that goal by boosting this video in the algorithm. Without further ado, let's get to it. Good things begin small, and that includes the life of a Komodo dragon. Hatchlings are obviously not capable of taking down some of the crazier prey items on this list. They're small, fragile, and their isn't very well developed. At this stage in their lives, they are no different from the 20-inch long spiny-tailed monitors. The main diet of a hatchling is composed of insects, from grasshoppers to beetles and basically anything that can fit in their mouth, as is the custom for a true opportunistic hunter. Not to mention, dragon pups start their lives living in arboreal habitats, heading straight for the trees as soon as they hatch so as to avoid some pretty intense predation. They will remain in the trees for up to 4 years as they grow confident enough to descend to the earth below and take on some larger prey. Larger Komodos will graduate to vertebrates as their mouths and stomachs grow more eager. They do not discriminate, and that will only become more apparent the longer we go down this list. Birds and their eggs are easy pickings for some of the larger pups that still reside in the trees, but there are many ground nesting birds that are even more easy piss? Really? If there's anything Joanna taught us, it's that varanids love their eggs.
Open your mouth. These are not Joanna eggs.
Other vertebrates will include small rodents such as mice, rats, and rabbits, as is commonly fed to them in other carnivorous reptiles like them in captivity. While many of these animals are ground dwellers, Komodo pups will still seldom drop to the ground if the opportunity presents itself. And don't think warm-blooded animals are the only small vertebrates on the menu. Small lizards and snakes are gobbled down too. Opportunistic hunters travel far and wide in search of food. In fact, Komodo dragons are known to swim several miles between islands in pursuit of prey thanks to their acute sense of smell with their Jacobson's organ. But just like hundreds of other apex predators, human interference with nature often leads to some overlap between civilization and the animal's hunting grounds, which can lead to some less than desirable confrontation. A giant 300-pound lizard is not going to think twice about apprehending livestock. Chickens can't fly, and they can't outrun a Komodo for very long either. These lizards can run at speeds of up to 12 miles per hour in short bursts. That's about as fast as you riding your bicycle. As previously mentioned, they are also very adept swimmers, so not even ducks like this Muscovy are safe either. But the prey can get even larger than that. Now, I'd normally put goats higher up on this list due to the fact that it is a livestock animal and can likely run from a Komodo relatively easily. But the depressing truth is, I'm sure many of us have already seen the videos of a full-grown Komodo swallowing a baby goat whole. I'm obviously not going to show it, and as you've noticed, there's been a lot of censoring going on in this video because, unfortunately, you don't have to be dead for these lizards to start eating. What especially pisses me off is that after doing my research and having watched way too many of these clips than what my mental health could take, I can confidently say that all of these videos are completely staged. What these videos won't show you is that the goats in these videos are completely incapacitated by humans so that it can't escape from the lizard trying to eat it. Notice how a majority of these goats are young and fragile. Notice how a majority of these goats are laying on the ground defenseless. Notice how frequently these videos cut, especially once the goat tries to escape. The same goes for just about all of these livestock videos, and it just pisses me off that they're all doing this for views and their own entertainment. These videos get millions of views on YouTube, and many of them aren't even age restricted. You can tell by reading the comments that none of the people who watch these videos care about being educated on Komodo dragons, and they watch this animal gore shit purely for their own twisted entertainment.
Nature is metal, guys.
That's why there are so many of these animal arena fighting videos and live feeding videos on YouTube. Despite animal cruelty being heavily against YouTube's content policies, these videos continue to thrive because the company as a whole doesn't take them seriously and thus allows for all of this. People often defend this type of content because it's natural. You know, like, haha, keep crying, liberal, this is nature, this is the real world. I'm sorry, but do you not understand how nature works? Is it natural to throw a live rabbit in a tiny enclosure with a boa constrictor that's too small to safely eat it? Is it natural to tie a baby goat to the ground in front of a Komodo dragon so it can be swallowed alive, defenseless? What is natural about that? I really hope something is done about this type of content soon, because the hardest part about making this video is having to sit through these really awful videos, and knowing how much attention they get just genuinely makes my blood boil. Unfortunately, this is just a product of the tourism on these islands. Up until recently, people have flooded there to see the dragons and observe them in their natural habitat. And because many locals make their living off tourism, they will often do anything in their power to give these tourists what they want, that being the lizards. And this is what happens when you treat wild animals like a spectacle. The Komodo dragon is listed by the IUCN Red List as an endangered species. There are only 1,400 recorded adults left in the wild, and their main threat is habitat loss as a result of human intervention. In fact, it's gotten so bad that Komodo Island is now closing tourism temporarily to help the ecosystem as a whole recover, and that includes the dragons. Until privileged Instagram white tourist idiots get their heads examined and educate themselves on the importance of wildlife conservation, there will always be exploitative industries like this that ultimately harm the animals they are observing more than helping. I apologize for getting so heated during this rant, but I figured I wouldn't get another chance to discuss this, and I hope this heated segment was still educational for you on how truly damaging tourism as a whole can be for wildlife conservation. Regardless, domesticated animals with little to no survival instincts compared to their wild counterparts will always be easy pickings for opportunistic hunters, and that phenomenon has been occurring for thousands of years. The funny thing is, there are more animals here due to human intervention than you might think, and the dragons have been able to adapt to their presence quite effectively. And it's easy to see why. When living on an island with limited resources, you take every advantage you have. This is a major reason why the Komodos are such capable carnivores, as not only are they hunters but scavengers as well. As I've mentioned before, their sense of smell is extremely effective, and they will often use that sense of smell purely to locate the carcasses of dead animals, even the more rotten meat in very advanced stages of decay, also known as carrion. You and I couldn't handle consuming the pathogens contained in rotting meat. We can't even eat raw meat, despite what some Darwin Award-winning TikTok bro dudes might say.
You don't need to cook meat. You can eat raw meat. It's totally fine. Steak tartare. We can eat raw meat. We have the biological ability to eat raw meat. We don't.
And some studies are starting to show that even cooked meat is bad for us. But the dragons are totally immune, thanks to their efficient digestive systems that have evolved to handle rotting meat. Monitor lizards in general have this resistance because many of them live in similarly harsh climates where food is scarce, such as the Perenni and Argus monitors in Australia, or the Savannah and Nile monitors in Central Africa. But sometimes when the prey is alive, it can pack quite the punch. Such is the case with pigs, deer, and wild boar. As established, animal livestock is easy food for Komodo dragons, and domestic pigs are unfortunately no exception to that. But even wild boar, which are exceptionally gnarly creatures, will often fall prey to the dragons. Wild boar are menaces, and here where I live in the United States, they are a serious ecological disaster with an estimated 6 million feral hogs terrorizing the landscape. Not only are they omnivorous, meaning they eat both plants and meat, but they are exceptionally intelligent, even smarter than dogs, can grow to some truly massive sizes, and have the tools to easily kill you with those razor-sharp tusks. You'd be surprised to know that wild boar are also known to kill younger Komodo dragons, making this rivalry between the two animals not entirely one-sided. But the lizards usually come out on top. It's hard to contest with the venomous reptilian menace that weighs as much as a fridge. While not quite as formidable as the boar, the Komodo's native range also includes the Javan Rusa deer. Deer in general are far more flight than fight, but anyone who's been attacked by one knows they can be dangerous, whether it be with those massive antlers from the bucks, or their extremely sharp hooves they can use to beat you up with. This looks funny until you're on the receiving end of it. What makes these deer being on the lizard's diet especially scary is that they are frequently hunted and chased down despite them being built to run away. The Komodo dragon is considered to be an ambush predator though, sneaking up on its prey and lunging for the kill when the time is right. And this might be the main reason why it is able to catch such agile animals. Another example of that would be actual monkeys. You would think that something that primarily lives in the trees and is too big for the tree-dwelling juvenile dragons to hunt would be nearly completely safe. But as it turns out, the crab-eating macaque specifically makes up to 20% of the wild dragon's diets, with the aforementioned Rusa deer being the most common prey species making up 58%. While still arboreal, the crab-eating macaque are more terrestrial than some other monkeys, making them more susceptible to ground-dwelling predators like the Komodo dragon. The crab-eaters in particular are specialized swimmers and frequently inhabit mangrove swamps to swim in the channels. Both these monkeys and the dragons themselves are coastal, so this overlap in their territory makes predation inevitable. As mentioned, Komodo dragons are highly venomous. That slimy drool dripping from their chins isn't just for show, though it is pretty funny. I mean, this is how I look when I see my girlfriend sometimes. It used to be believed that Komodo dragons weren't venomous, but instead had a mouthful of deadly bacteria that heavily infected the prey that they bit. But in all actuality, there was hardly much evidence to support that claim to begin with. We now know that the dragons actually have venom glands in their lower jaws that ooze the protein out when it clamps its jaws shut, lacerating their prey with their serrated teeth. Acts as an anticoagulant, effectively preventing blood from clotting and allowing the prey to bleed out significantly faster. It also causes severe necrosis, lowers blood pressure, and even induces shock in the body. As it turns out, the common consensus nowadays is that all monitor lizards have some form of, though none quite as effective as the Komodos. Is especially helpful when it comes to hunting the prey that are either too fast or too big to overpower all at once, like some of the smaller animals they eat. You get bit, run away, slowly bleed to death, and the dragon just tracks down where you die, and then dinner is served. Does all the dirty work for them in this instance. But what happens when a highly venomous reptile comes in contact with another highly venomous reptile? As mentioned before, Komodo dragons are no stranger to eating snakes. But did you think that also included venomous snakes? Believe it or not, it actually does. Indonesia as a whole is filled with venomous snakes, many of which are elapids, the same family that includes cobras, mambas, and sea snakes. They're especially deadly as they contain neurotoxins that spread throughout your body and can even shut down vital organ functions such as your lungs and heart. Komodo dragons, however, don't give a shit. Native to their range are the blue-lipped sea crate, the Javan spitting cobra, and the Russell's viper, all of which are highly venomous. But the dragons still reign supreme because they actually have some resistance to snake. It seems several varanids do, seeing as how their habitat overlaps with many deadly venomous snakes in Australia, Africa, and southern Asia. But Komodo dragons in particular have a very thick hide that would be extremely hard to penetrate with a snake's small fangs. Many people wear thick boots when walking through viper territory, and it's enough for them. Dragon scales are no joke. They are actually covered with small osteoderms, essentially tiny bone like armor plating on each scale similar to those you'd see on a crocodile that reinforce its hide even further. To put it short, they are literally built different. While admittedly there is not as much documentation on them eating these venomous snakes, it is certainly known to happen whether it be hunting or scavenging. Fish are a diverse bunch, so it's a little hard to jumble them all together here, but with the dragons living on an island surrounded by water, they are bound to get a taste of seafood. While many fish are beached and scavenged as a result, Komodo dragons are entirely capable of swimming to catch them on their own. Just like the crab-eating macaques of before, a little water never scared a Komodo from being the opportunistic hunter that it is. Aquatic species as a whole, I suppose, are equally surprising. But while they are good swimmers, the lizard's access to them is mostly still bound by carcasses stranded from the sea and rivers. But these ain't your granddaddy's fish. Some of the species the dragons have been eating are nuts, from tilapia to tuna to herring to eels to stingrays to sharks. The crazy thing is, shark meat is mostly poisonous for us humans, but once again, the dragons do not care. There are many shark species native to southern Indonesia, and this is where I invite you, dear viewer, to guess some of them with me. I can only make out this one, the blacktip reef shark, but the rest is anyone's guess, so please let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, be sure to like and subscribe, babes. The thing about nature is that things like morals and ethics are effectively non-existent. Darwinian evolution entails that in order for a species to exist, it must do so by filling its ecological niche via natural selection by any means necessary. Survival of the fittest, so to speak. I've mentioned how brutal Komodo dragons can be when preying on other animals to the point where I can't think of many worse ways to die than what's happened to their victims. But they don't do this to be cruel and malicious. They don't even understand the concept of malice or violence. This is just how they are, and how they have been for millions of years. Reminds me of what Chris Rock said regarding the abused circus tiger that attacked Siegfried and Roy.
Talk about the tiger went crazy. That tiger ain't go crazy. That tiger went tiger.
The sad reality is this is just what the law of nature entails. So with that in mind, and given how opportunistic and efficient carnivores these lizards are, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone at this point that dragons are cannibals. I've said before that the simple rule is that anything that fits in their mouth is fair game, and other Komodos are no exception to that. Hence why they live in the trees until they grow bigger. But it's not just the babies that get eaten. If there's two dragons together and the bigger one is hungry enough, the smaller one will likely be eaten. And even larger Komodo dragons can fall prey to others as a result of them being old and sick. Cannibalism is a somewhat common phenomenon in nature, and especially with reptiles, but it is so common in Komodo dragons that 10% of their diet in the wild is made up of other members of their species. Mothers will even eat their own babies, as that maternal instinct is essentially gone as soon as their eggs hatch. Just like a baby sea turtle's instinct is to head straight to the ocean as soon as they are born to escape predators, this is the main reason why dragon pups make a beeline straight for the trees. And speaking of sea turtles, they're on the menu too. There are 3 known sea turtles that will come to the shores of the Dragon's Islands, those being the green sea turtle, the loggerhead, and the hawksbill, which is my personal favorite. Surprisingly, there's quite a bit of documentation on this specific prey item. Komodo dragons have been filmed eating both live and deceased sea turtles. As you can imagine, all of these encounters are on land, as the turtles are extremely sluggish and vulnerable on the shore compared to how agile they can be underwater. The reason sea turtles come to the shore is because the females need to build their nests and lay their eggs on land, an extremely exhausting and dangerous process that can take hours. With the dragons being highly intelligent animals, they know to prey on sea turtle nests and devour their eggs as well. You know how I talked about animals being purposely set up so that dragons can eat them alive for the sake of clout? Yeah, livestock were not the only animals to fall victim to this. Some of the largest bats in the world are the megabats, also known as flying foxes. They are strictly herbivorous, eating only fruit, nectar, and occasionally leaves. They're the same type of bats that you see on those adorable burrito videos where they're all snug as a bug in a rug eating bananas and grapes too big for their little mouths. And that's exactly why I will not be showing the footage of them being devoured by Komodo dragons, because while it is true that bats are regularly preyed upon in the wild, every single video I could find were completely staged, with the bat's wings either being ripped or broken, or their feet were tied to the branch for the lizard to access. Animal cruelty aside, it is very impressive that a cold-blooded lizard is able to regularly prey upon fast, agile bats at all in the wild. And it certainly isn't something you'd expect to be on their diet when you think of Komodo dragon food. But this next animal might be something more familiar to some of you. We all know how animal livestock are preyed upon by the dragons. At this point, Old MacDonald's song is just sounding out the menu to them. But there's one human-introduced animal in particular that has an especially interesting dynamic with Komodo dragons. This is the Asian water buffalo. Domesticated roughly 6,500 years ago, their use is universal. Meat, dairy, haulage, land tilling, fertilizer, fuel, and are now even being used in conservation efforts to clear wetlands for other wildlife. But what happens when a 1,200-pound tank with razor-sharp horns escapes or is released from captivity in the Komodo dragon's native range? Well, the climate is not well suited for them. The islands can become extremely dry and the water holes extremely stale, overridden with bacteria. With these buffalo not being native to the area, you can imagine the dragons are eager to take advantage of it, despite them not really knowing the concept of non-native species. But Valentina, you gorgeous young thing, you ask. We know Komodo dragons are menaces, but how could they possibly take on such a large beast? While it is true that the buffalo wins a one-on-one fight to the death, the lizards don't need to stoop to such actions when they're, what was it called? Can do all of the work for them. All they need to do is land one bite. The buffalo can run or wallow as much as it wants, which could help or simply make the infection worse. But in many cases, it is only a matter of time until they ultimately succumb to the... With an animal this big, it can take days, but the smell will draw in many more dragons to help speed up the process. Cannibalistic as they may be, there will be plenty of food to go around in due time, and they don't let a single part of it go to waste. And that rule applies to any animal, really, including ones that the dragons probably wouldn't even recognize. Do you recognize this carcass being eaten? Yeah, that's a freaking dolphin. There are many dolphins native to the area: spinner dolphins, spotted dolphins, Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphins, and a few more. Obviously, they don't beach themselves on purpose, but strandings do happen whether they're dead or still living. Just as with any other beached marine animal, the dragon's opportunistic nature will always kick in when seeing a helpless potential prey item. Now, I know there have been a lot of aquatics on this list, and I'm sure that's not too much of a surprise given that Komodos are a coastal species. But I do have one more for the penultimate food item on this list. Can you guess what it is? If your guess was octopus, you'd be correct. I would have also taken squid or maybe even cuttlefish, all of which are cephalopods. As you can probably imagine, this is also exclusively a scavenging case. Whenever something washes ashore in its meat, rotten or not, the dragons will eat it. And while we are aware that the lizard's consumption of carrion knows no bounds, that can often lead them into dangerous territory. The final prey item on this list is unfortunate and a little disturbing. It's bad enough that the Komodo Dragon's range is as small as it is, being restricted to only a few relatively small islands, and making confrontation with humans basically inevitable. The livestock issue was always a problem, especially when said humans would rather film animal torture than protect them, but the encounters between the largest lizard on the planet and human civilization can have devastating consequences for both sides involved. Yes, Komodo dragons are known to even eat humans on occasion. A majority of these cases are a known habit of the lizards, occasionally unearthing graves. With their incredibly strong sense of smell, the bodies are tracked down and dug out easily with their powerful claws known for digging. To be honest, I'm surprised I was even able to find footage of this at all, let alone on YouTube. I'm not even trying to be funny here, but is there insurance for this sort of thing? Would families be compensated for their loved one's corpse being eaten by a dragon? Other varanids are known to eat humans as well from time to time, so this is not exclusively a thing of the Komodo variety. The Asian water monitor, the second largest lizard in the world, who act like the Komodo dragon's fat, chill, jungle bum cousins, often gather in large quantities at urban areas such as Bangkok. You can imagine a lizard with a tendency to eat anything and everything existing in densely populated human areas can result in some munching. And sadly, not all attacks are just digging up bodies. In 2007, an 8-year-old boy was hunted and killed by a Komodo dragon. And between 1974 and 2012, there have been 24 reported attacks in the wild. Likely more, because many attacks can often go unreported due to the dragon's native range being generally remote and impoverished, which is infuriating to say the least. I'm not going to discuss the politics of Komodo Island, but I just find it ridiculous that an area with the largest lizards in the world that people regularly fly in from all over the world to see them becomes such a large victim of gentrification, to the point where many locals have to make their livings off of said tourism. The tourism itself is ultimately more harmful than helpful because the odds of more attacks happening are likely going to increase if more of the island is gentrified and we move in further in their habitat, especially with the dragon's numbers having dropped recently. The island has closed temporarily, but who knows how long that'll even be for as rich people continue to lie through their fucking teeth about it. I suppose all we can do now is wait and hope their numbers will recover thanks to our current conservation efforts and that more people could be educated on them to support those causes. And that's ultimately why I'm making this video. Komodo dragons are some of my favorite animals, and if we can't protect them, who will? Certainly not the elites that continue to expand upon their territory and continue driving them to extinction. To conclude this video on a hopeful note, these animals are hardy as hell. Their opportunistic nature, their sheer size and strength, their speed, their extremely high intelligence, their huge variety of prey, and their adaptability as a whole has allowed them to live this long. All we need to do is protect them from those that wish to continue destroying their habitat. Because in my opinion, a world without dragons is one step closer to a world without wonder. I'd like to thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Working on it was a ton of fun minus all the censorship and gore, so please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing to make that trauma worth it for me. And hit the bell icon if you like what you see. This type of content has always been my passion to make, and your support greatly helps me reach those goals. As always, my name is Valentina, and thank you for watching.